Breaking news. President Obama is to speak on healthcare. When isn't he speaking on healthcare? It would be breaking news if he wasn't speaking on healthcare. But apparently he will be speaking on healthcare momentarily. So we'll try our very best not to bring that to you. Because as he himself said, when he was speaking about healthcare only last week, everything that can be said on healthcare has been said, so the time for talking is over. That's what he's been saying now in every speech for the last 6 months. The time for talking is over. So he'll be saying the time for talking is over in his latest talk coming up in a couple of minutes. I just saw that breaking news flash. President Obama to speak on healthcare. So we will do our very best not to bring that to you. Robert Gibbs on healthcare said on Meet the Press yesterday, whoever sits here, not Meet the Press, it was Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace, whoever sits here this time next week will be talking about healthcare reform not as a presidential proposal, but as the law of the land. This is it, folks. This is the week the healthcare bill is going to be dragged into law one way or the other. Nancy Pelosi says we stand on the doorstep of history. It was only last week that we stood on the front porch of history, way back on Christmas Eve when the Senate passed the health care bill. We stood at the garden gate of history. But then Scott Brown got elected in Massachusetts, and for just a moment, we briefly backed out of the front drive of history and reversed over the neighbor's dog of history. And back in the fall, when the House passed its original health care bill, we stood at the mailbox out on the sidewalk of history. We've come so far. Only a year ago, when Barack Obama had 3/4 of the American people in favor of so-called healthcare reform, we stood on the edge of town of history asking the cranky old guy in plaid with no teeth, asking for directions to history's house. And now, as Nancy Pelosi says, we stand on the doorstep of history. And as Robert Gibbs has promised, in just 7 days' time, we will be in the rec room of history. This thing will no longer be an oncoming train. It will have run over us, flattened us, left us in the dust, and be further down the track. We stand on the doorstep of history. One thinks of Don McLean's sage words from American Pie. Bad news on my doorstep. I couldn't take one more step. I've been saying on this show, I think the first time was about a year and a half ago now, that healthcare reform, so-called healthcare reform, you need a ton of scare quotes around every word in that, around healthcare and reform. Healthcare reform is the fastest way to a permanent left-of-center political culture. And the waste of time is to talk about what's actually in the bill. The waste of time is to talk about what it means for this and what it means for that, because it isn't primarily, government healthcare isn't about healthcare, it's about government. It's about government. And that's why the objective of the Democrats is to pass anything. Get it over the bridge. Get it across the river and burn the bridge. That's what matters. The details don't matter. They've just released, in fact, they're kind of openly contemptuous about the fact that the details don't matter. Late last night, just before midnight, the Democrats released a 2,309-page health care bill that is intended to start the process of reconciliation, as they call it. But it's not the actual reconciliation bill with all the alleged changes to reconciliation between the Senate and the House that they've been talking about. It's just a kind of shadow bill, a shell bill, a pseudo bill, a Potemkin bill. It's apparently some early draft of some bill from a few months ago. It's a phantom bill. Nothing in this bill is real. But this is the process by which Nancy Pelosi has determined that if you pass this phantom phony bill, then the Senate and House bills can be reconciled, and we can get health care through by the end of the week. I mean, this is not only makes nonsense of any kind of responsible government or parliamentary procedures. It's nakedly contemptuous of that, but it drives home the point that I've been making all along, that the details don't matter. Just pass anything, pass something, pass anything. Once it's there, once you get across the river to the other side, you've got the embryo bureaucracies. You can expand them and expand their funding as much as you want. The details are irrelevant. In the end, the Cornhusker kickback and all the rest of it are irrelevant because it's all going to be small potatoes compared to the catastrophe that will be caused by this bill. So this is it, make or break week. And as I told you so, I don't want to keep saying "as I told you so" every 2 minutes. So you can just take that as read for a lot of this stuff. But the point here is that the Democrats long ago factored in a possible loss in 2010. And if you're going to lose in 2010, and maybe they would anyway, because a lot of the sheen of Obama has worn off, and just in the normal course of midterm elections, it might well be that they'd have taken a hit. You might as well take the hit to some purpose, and they figure this is worth it, because what'll happen, the way they see it is this: Democrats have calculated this is what's going to happen. They'll pass the health care bill, they'll lose in November, a bunch of Republicans will get elected, but they won't do anything about that big healthcare monstrosity. And when the Democrats are returned to power in the House and the Senate in 2012 or maybe 2014, whenever it is, that huge monstrosity of healthcare, the embryo form of a permanent left-of-center political culture, will still be down there in the basement, like the slumbering monster in a creature feature that just needs to be given a couple of jolts of electricity to be sparked back to life and start rampaging around the neighborhood all over again. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the political implications of the of this healthcare thing today. But Robert Gibbs has pledged. He has pledged that this thing is going to be the law of the land within 7 days' time. And he's serious. He's serious about this. All the stuff, you know, all these little itsy bitsy things. Is it going to be? Is going to be a funding for abortion in it? Is Ben Nelson going to have to give back the Cornhusker kickback? Is Mary Landrieu going to have to give back the Louisiana Purchase? All this is irrelevant. They'll do what they need to do to get their 60 votes and to get it through the House. But it doesn't really matter. It's like that. Have you ever seen that game they play in Afghanistan, Buzkashi? They play it with the carcass of a dead goat. It's the headless carcass of a dead goat. It's like polo played with the carcass of a dead goat. And these two teams are right up and down the field, swinging with mallets at the carcass of a dead goat. And you can imagine what state the carcass of the dead goat is at by the end of the game. But they get that carcass across the, whatever they call it there in Buzkashi, the goal line, and they don't care what shape the carcass is in as long as they get it across the goal line. And that is exactly the same with the Democrats. They don't care what shape this dead goat's carcass of a health care bill is in by the time they get it across the goal line. The point is to get it across the goal line. And that is what they are determined to do this week.